what I'd like to do now is welcome to the stage Jacobo. Jacobo is an entrepreneur and an Enbrel patient and has achieved things that I can't even imagine trying in terms of, for me to swim from one end of the pool to the other is quite an effort. So to swim distances that include miles as measurement is quite remarkable. So I ask you to give a very warm welcome and welcome Jacobo to the stage.
Thank you very much. I must say it's not 40 miles, it's 40 kilometers. Maybe next time I try 40 miles, but Mallorca and Menorca, 40 kilometers distance. Anyway, thank you, Mike. Thank you very much for having me here today. For me, it's a big pleasure to be in this meeting and trying to explain in 20 minutes what's happened in 20 years. So I'll try to, normally I swim, now I'll try to run, which is not so easy for me. And I'll try to explain what it is like living with ankylosing spondylitis. It might sound rather strange if I start my talk by saying thank you, AS. I'm sure it's quite odd, but I have to thank AS. Because if it wasn't for AS, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have been, had the chance to prove myself and the people around me that human beings almost have no limits. And this is what I've learned through AS. If it wasn't for AS, I wouldn't have had the chance of sharing my experience with other people that suffer, and they suffer pain, and they've suffered pain for many years. And through my conferences and my talks, I go and to different congresses in Spain, and I talk to people that have AS or any other rheumatic diseases, trying to give them a light and hope, and trying to show them that you can do anything with any pain you have with a little help that I'll talk today about. And thank you, AS, because it's my personal driver for self-improvement. If it wasn't for AS, I'm sure I wouldn't have done many of the challenges that I've done and reached in the last years, and I'm going to share with you today. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option. When you are diagnosed of something like this disease, you have two options. First option, you can sit in your sofa at home and you wait until your body is completely stiff like a tree. And then you carry on with your life 15 years later with a lot of pain, having suffered a lot of pain. That's the first option. And I know of people who have taken this option. Second option is you grab the disease, you say this is not in me. Of course it's in you, and you cannot avoid it, but you take the optimistic and realistic path, and you do what you have to do to fight against your disease. For me, AS doesn't exist. I never say I have a disease, I say I have a back pain, and that's it. Because that's my way to defend myself from this. I was diagnosed of ankylosing spondylitis 20 years ago when I was 28. I was a normal person at 28. I did sports and I had my job, a good job, and I was a very happy person. And suddenly I had to learn how to deal with a daily basis huge pain, which is quite difficult. But I managed to do it. To give you an example, I don't know how many of you know what AS is, but let me explain in 2 minutes what it is. It's a chronic rheumatic disease, extremely painful. It can become a torture. To give you an idea, I've been many years I couldn't even tie my shoes or pull up my socks. I've been sleeping in a sitting down position for 5 years. My life became quite a torture. And since the first minute, I decided that I had to do something about it. And this is try to embrace my pain and try to learn how to live with it. And someone that has my disease, or even without having any kind of disease, someone who wants to have success in life, both personally or professionally, should take care about different values. I'm going to talk to you about 6 values. I wish I could have time enough to extend a lot of time and explaining you these values, but I'll go through them because this is what I decided when I was diagnosed, and this is what I decided to work when I decided to do my challenges in life. Willpower. You have to, Einstein said that willpower is even stronger than energy power or any other power that we know, and it's true. You have to have a strong willpower to stand up and continue fighting, and stand up and doing what you have to do to make your dreams come true. Compromise. You have to compromise with yourself, you have to compromise with your teams, you have to compromise with society. And this is maybe the easiest path to get to the end of the road with success. Discipline. In my trainings, I have a lot of discipline. I jump into the water at 7 o'clock in the morning many days, and I come out of the water at 11 o'clock in the morning. That's in the weekends, of course, not in the weekdays because I have to work. But in the weekdays, I jump in the water at lunchtime. I don't have lunch. I have lunch either before or after swimming, and then I go back to work. But this is the only way you can do. This is what you have to do if you want to reach goals like this. Sacrifice. I love this picture. I wish I was Phelps. You need to understand that there's a lot. I mean, life is. It can be as hard or as easy as you make it. It's really up to you. Because it depends on you how you take the good news and you take the bad news. But you need to put some sacrifice in your life to make your life more interesting. Confidence. If you think that something is possible, it will be possible. If you think that this same something is not possible, I'm sure it won't be possible. It depends on us. If you fall once, you stand up twice. If you fall 100 times, you get up 101, and then you will succeed. And passion. We have to ask ourselves, are we living? I ask myself, am I living how I really want to live? Every morning I look at myself in the mirror and I ask the same question. Is it how I want to live? Is this my life? If the answer is no for many days in a row, I have to change something. When I was diagnosed of AS, I asked this many times. Is this how I want to live? With pain, with not depression. I know that many people that have AS are depressed. Is this how I want to live? No, I have to change something. And that's what I did. Before I was diagnosed, and now, I've always been a dreamer. I've always had dreams, I'm sure like many of you here. And before I was diagnosed, I had a dream when I was 22, 23. I always thought, the world is so big and we have to learn so much about the world. I can't just live my life in Madrid, which I love, but there's much more beyond the limits of Madrid. So 4 years after I was diagnosed, I looked at myself at the mirror and I thought, this disease has stopped me from doing my first dream, my real dream in life. This can't be possible. And with willpower, with compromise, with passion, I decided to make my backpack, 12 kilos of backpack, 2 out of which were anti-inflammatories, because it was the only thing at the time that would relieve my pain. And I did my first challenge with AS. I went around the world for 15 months. The world was my school, was better than any other masters. Lots of people, different experiences, different beliefs, different dreams, and different challenges. And I learned a lot out of this. When I went back to Madrid, I went back to a new job. By the way, the best job I've ever had. Everyone said, or some people said, are you crazy? You're leaving your job, you're quitting when you're back, it's going to be very difficult for you. No. I found the best job ever when I came back from the world trip. But the bad news is that I went back into the pain because I went back into the routine, and routine is not very good when you have something like AS. You have to move, you have to do different things, you have to be active. So I was in really big pain for another 5 or 6 years. And suddenly, 12 years after I was diagnosed, when I was 40 years old, I went to my rheumatic doctor and I looked at him straight to his eyes and I said, I have no quality of life. This is no life for someone who's 40. I take 15 minutes to get out of bed or out of the car. I sleep sitting down. If you don't do something about it, I'll do something about it. It wasn't a threat, it was a bet. And I just wanted my doctor to look at me and say, I have a solution for you. And he did. He said, I think it's time for you to go into this treatment. And I went into a biological treatment. I must say, I totally agree with the lady that you saw the video before me. It's the biggest present I've ever had. I was opened into a new world. Since the first injection, I came out of the hospital jumping somersaults. And it's not true, but it could have been true. You will see. But I felt like this. But most important, I was given a present, and a huge window opened in my life. Sun, light, joy, relax, no more pain. I haven't had more pain for 8 years since I started using Embrel. So from here and now, I have to thank you all, and I have to thank Pfizer, because Pfizer has given me a second chance, and even more, not a second chance in my life, which is true, but it has driven me into some adventures that I would never ever would have thought I would have done in my life. There's something I call my personal thermometer. I don't know if it makes any sense. It does in Spanish. Which I do since I'm using Embrel. If I'm not feeling too well, I'm stiff and I'm in a flare-up, I don't do it. If I do it, it means that I'm really, really well and I'm in shape and I'm happy. And so I do it to prove myself, to make myself, make sure that I'm fit enough to do. And I'm sure that if this picture that I'll show you in a minute was seen by the doctor that told me I had AS 20 years ago, or by one of the patients whom I spoke to when I was diagnosed, and she said to me, are you aware that you maybe end up in a wheelchair? I'm sure that if they saw this picture, they would think it's faked, like probably many of you today. But I tell you, this is not faked. This picture was taken 6 months ago with my skates on. You know, AS has put me into the skates world. Never thought of skating in my life. I've never skated, roller skate in my life. And suddenly, because of Embrel, I started skating. Isn't it strange? I always wonder if people that use Embrel have side effects like I do. This is a side effect. Anyway, sometimes you don't know what you can do until you try it, as if you really knew that you can do it. This is, maybe we can all think about this. We are almost unlimited. We can do so many things, but we are our own and personal machine of saying, no, I can't, no, I can't. Yes, of course we can. We can do many more things than we think. And to prove you that, I'll show you in a minute what I've been able to achieve. Look for a challenge, fight for it. It doesn't have to be a sports challenge. It can be any challenge in life. It can be a professional challenge, increasing sales, for instance. Why not? We all have to increase sales. I have to increase my sales also. Look for a challenge, fight for it, and when you reach it, you will touch heaven. It's very difficult to explain in words what touching heaven means. So I leave it to you. Look for a challenge. When you achieve it, you will touch heaven and you will feel what touching heaven means. I've touched heaven a couple of times. One day I was having dinner with some friends in Madrid. It was September, 3 years ago. And within these friends was my sister. And she knew that I had started swimming a little bit, half an hour one day, half an hour 3 days later, very chaotic. Not organized at all. And she said, do you know that a friend of mine has swum across the Strait of Gibraltar? And I said, is your friend David Mecca? David Mecca is the world champion for ultra-distance swimming, and he was, not anymore. And he said, no, my friend is called James. And I told my sister, if James can, I can. And my sister looked at me very strange, and she kept on eating, and she thought, because he skates, he thinks he can cross the Strait of Gibraltar. Anyway, the next day I started swimming, and I talked to a trainer, and that's what I did for 2 years. I worked, I used umbrella, and I swam. And I ended up swimming for almost 19 kilometers. I trained for 1,200 kilometers in 2 years. And I decided to swim across the Strait of Gibraltar because, in my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful spots in the world. It's not because it's in Spain. I'm not chauvinist. It's true. I mean, the Strait of Gibraltar is a special place in the world where the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean shake hands. It's the unity between Africa and Europe, between Spain and Morocco. The fauna and flora in the strait is amazing. There are 18 types of sharks. There's white shark in the Strait of Gibraltar. There's orcas, whales, tuna fish, 300 kilos. And believe me, this was a challenge for me, to dive into the water and swim for 4 hours knowing that there are orcas around you, or even sharks. And that made it much more exciting. But the only one animal that can stop you from reaching your dream is this size. It's a jellyfish. If you go into a jellyfish bank, you're done. You have to leave. It's much worse than being eaten by a shark, I guess. But there's something very important, both in my challenges and in life. These kind of challenges have taught me a very important concept, which is sharing. And I've had the privilege to share with different associations and organizations my challenges. This challenge I shared with the Down Syndrome Association in Madrid, and all the money we raised through sponsors and private donations was given to this association for them to develop their own project. And I tell you, if you do your own challenge in life, it's important. If you share it with people like this, you take your challenge, you multiply by 1,000, which is marvelous. It was the 10th of June of 2013. We were taken from the support boat, the Zodiac, out of the port of Tarifa. We were taken when we were 25 minutes away from the light tree of Tarifa, we were asked to jump into the water. The water was 14 degrees of temperature. Pablo and I jumped into the water. We swam towards the light tree. We touched the light tree. We looked at each other, smiled, thumbs up, and someone whistled, and the challenge started. Pablo and I started swimming. The sea wasn't too bad. The current wasn't too bad by the time. 400 meters later, Pablo looked at me and said, "I'm living." Pablo is Down syndrome, and he was with me for 400 meters, and he represented all the Down syndrome people in the world, which is what I really wanted at the time. His smile, he was so proud of having jumped with me and swimming with me for 400 meters. And his smile, his look when he was taken back to the Zodiac pushed me, and it's the energy that really gave me to reach Morocco for almost 4 hours later. It was a dream. When you are training something like this, and this is a suggestion for life in general, not only for your private, but also your professional life, there's something basic. We have to visualize, and we have to visualize optimistic things. Normally we visualize pessimistic things. I don't know why. We torture ourselves. When I was training the Strait of Gibraltar, I had many things to visualize. In the swimming pool, at home, having lunch, when I woke up, I was always visualizing. And there are 3 things that were most important, which I want to share with you. One was I wanted to be in the middle of the strait, right in the middle, and I wanted to see one of these 80,000 boats or ship that cross the strait every year, 100 meters of tons of iron here, tons of iron there. It was really something really exciting for me, and I made it. I had to cross and swim across these huge ships, which was it was really really amazing. And this, when I was right in that spot, I thought that creation is enormous, and we are so vulnerable. If we only knew how vulnerable we are, we would be much, much happier, I'm sure. Second visualize I was always thinking, I will be swimming not in my habitat, I will be swimming in the dolphin's habitat. It would be amazing to swim across the strait, being with a family of dolphins together, swimming with me. Sometimes dreams don't come true. And in this case, it didn't come true. There were no dolphins. I was asking for them and calling them, but there were no dolphins. But I was very lucky to swim with a family of whales, pilot whales, for 2 or 3 minutes. Not more than 3 minutes, but for me it was like 3 hours. It was amazing. And the third visualizing thing I always visualized, of course you may have guessed by now, was how will it be when I reach the end? When I reach Morocco, I will go out of a beach, walk out, there will be 100 Moroccans celebrating with me, jumping, clapping. There'll be one Moroccan with a couscous bowl coming up to me. I would eat couscous. I would go back to my boat with energy. And again, not all the dreams come true. Not all that you visualize in life come true. So when I reached the other end, 18 kilometers or 19 kilometers later, I looked up. I didn't see any Moroccan. What I saw is a goat. And there was a whole family looking at me. They were eating their grass of the day, and they were looking like completely ignoring me. I promise this is one of the most intimate experiences I've had in my life. Who can tell that has had intimate experience with a goat? I think it's very difficult. I've had one. From the boat, they were calling me, come on, you have to come back, you have no passport. Maybe you get into trouble, there might be police looking at you here, you have to rush. So I looked up again to say goodbye to my favorite goat. And it's when I saw the shepherd saying goodbye and very happily waving his hands. And this is what really makes exciting an adventure like this. Came back to Madrid, I was celebrating with all my family and friends, and I thought, I'm not sure if I've been the first patient, AS patient, to swim across 19 kilometers in the Strait of Gibraltar, but I want to be the first patient. I was so fit when I reached Morocco. On the way back, I thought I want to be the first patient to swim across the Menorca Channel. This is swimming from Mallorca to Menorca, 40 kilometers. It took me 12 hours. It was another time. It was another great experience. And my fuel, my energy, again, was Umbrel. I rely on Umbrel. And whenever I'm not feeling too well, I just put an injection, and it's like a miracle. I even had an Umbrel injection like 2 days before going to Mallorca, just in case. Beautiful moments, but the most beautiful moment in this challenge is, and please remember this phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The difference between this challenge and the previous challenge is that I was joined by 2 friends. They weren't friends at the time, but they were very good friends now, very good swimmers, Felix and Peyo. And sharing, I said before, sharing is fantastic. Sharing with an NGO is fantastic. Sharing with 2 friends, training the same number of kilometers every day is even more fantastic. And this is an interesting picture because only 8 people had crossed the Menorca Channel by the time. Today we can say it's 3 more people, us 3, and we have the record. We have the world record of crossing the Menorca Channel, which is, I mean, no, thank you, but I didn't, thank you very much. I didn't expect, because it's not so important. I mean, what's really important is that I reached my challenge and my dream. Not that Felix is number 1, I'm number 2, and Peyo is number 3. Really, I'm being serious with this. The important thing is that I reached the other end. And the important thing about this is that this picture tells everything. I could share my experience with Uno Entre 100,000, which is an NGO that take care of kids' cancer. And all the money we raised, again, is being invested in research against kids' cancer. This is a real dream come true. I know that Pfizer has, thank you. Thank you very much. I know that investing in medicine, in treatments is extremely important. So why, if I'm using a treatment that is very good for me, why not try and giving back to society what I have received? Different moments, different very interesting moments. When you are doing something like this, you have to rely on important people in your life. In my swimming life, there are two very important persons. My trainer, Pedro, very good trainer, very good swimmer, and my physiotherapist. It's funny because I've never been into a physiotherapist because of AS, and now I go to a physiotherapist every month. I guess my physiotherapist in AS is Embrel. When you have a dream and you work for a dream, as I say, you visualize a lot of things. My dream was to be sponsored by one sportsman, which is my hero. And it's not Ronaldo or Messi. We got in touch with him. We sent him all the project presentations and videos. And he came back to us saying that he couldn't help us because he has his own NGO and all his money is put into his association to work with social needs. So I thought, okay, this is a perfect dream. One little piece is not working. The day before we jumped into the water, I went to bed at 10 o'clock in Mallorca because we had to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning because we were jumping into the water at 5 o'clock in the morning. Last message I received in my mobile phone before I switched off the light was a message from Rafa Nadal, which is the sportsman I wanted me to sponsor our project, giving support to the whole project. This is a present when you insist. And again, you can extend this to life. When you insist, when you are really, really focused in something, you end up having it. And this is the proof of it. Different moments. I don't know how many of you have been able to see the sunrise in the middle of the sea after 2 hours swimming. I have, and it's amazing. And I suggest you do it. Maybe you can do it. You don't have to swim. You go into a boat and you dive into the water, you see the sunrise, and then you go back to the boat. It's really, really amazing. Different moments in the... if you want to see videos, I have like 2 videos in internet, in YouTube. I have my own website, and this is not doing advertising of my website, but it's a way to share with other people that have AS and other kinds of diseases and pain. And I always post my ideas, and I put my videos, so it can be a reference for other people that suffer. Of course, the logistics are very important when you do a challenge like this. You have to eat every half hour. You can't touch the boat. You can see they touch me, but I don't touch the boat. And they give us liquid and carbohydrates and proteins to carry on. And this is where we arrived in Mallorca, the end of the dream. It's a fantastic moment. Of course, sharing it for kids' leukemia and thanking everyone. I started this dream of this challenge on my own. I sat with a blank piece of paper. I sat at home and started writing my next challenge, which is this one. A year later, it was like 40 people together with me, swimmers, trainers, sponsors, friends. Amazing what you can do, what you can move when you're doing something from inside and from your heart. And this is our gratitude to all of those who have helped us. This story was quite successful. I came out in the papers, in the radio, even in the 9 o'clock news in Spain, which is, for me, it's okay. I mean, I'm not really impressed by coming out in the news, but it's very good because it gives a message to other people that are suffering. And since then, I've had calls from north to east, south, west, from people in Spain that are suffering from AS or other diseases and are asking me for my opinion and for my treatment. They say, but what on earth are you using? Can you give us the name of your treatment? I am your first ambassador. I'm always saying Embrel. Before they start talking, I say, Embrel, can I talk to you? No, really. I mean, if something works for you, why not sharing it with others? And what I want to say is, this is objetivo conseguido. It means that you reached your target. I think Pfizer has reached its target too. Developing treatments like Enbrel is very important. But I want to give you a message. Listen to the patients. I know you do. I know you're a lot focused now in the patient. You have more than 1 million patients in Europe. You have such a rich information. I think it's really important that you listen to patients, and I'm sure that if you do, you will get to very interesting conclusions that will help you grow. I'm absolutely sure about this. And let me give you one reason to wake up every morning when you go back home, when you go back to work. Let me give you a reason to jump out of bed, drive your car to work with a smile in your face. And that reason is me and people like me. Your work, your job, your energy is extremely important. What you do changes lives. I've heard it today, and it's true. I'm one of your victims, so I can tell you. So when you go back to work next time, when you are not in a very good mood, because sometimes work is not so easy, think of someone that you've met today and has shared his story with you and his challenges with you. And think of this person as someone who is, thanks to your work and to Embrel, is extremely happy and has an eternal smile in his face. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Jacobo, thank you. There's not much I can say that would top that. I think what we'd like to do now is, if there's questions that you have from the audience, something you want to know more about his experience, now's the time to hear directly from a patient. And while we're waiting for that, there's one that comes to mind for me. So you started off in the beginning saying thank you to AS. And we talk a lot about, from a business perspective, when there's challenges that you're confronted with, how do you turn them into opportunities? Do you think some of the things that you've done, you would have done had you not had to overcome those challenges that you did?
Well, I'm sure that if I hadn't had AS, I would have done a lot of things that I've done. That's for sure. Yes. I mean, AS is giving me an opportunity, and I think it's exactly the same in the professional side. Sometimes we see defeats, or when we don't reach our targets, or when something wrong goes on with our company or with our product, we see it as a catastrophe, and it might be an opportunity to rethink things and do things in another way. Yeah. So barriers in life should move you to be more energetic and to when you fall once, you stand up twice. Yes.
That's great. Thank you. Questions from the audience?
There's one.
Back there?
Thank you very much for your talk. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
I'd just like to ask, what is your next challenge? Where are you going to swim? Across from the UK to America?
If I said yes, I would show that Embrel has side effects. Well, my next challenge actually is, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to the National Swimming Championship indoor pool which means 25 meters. And I'm going to swim different styles and different distances, 100 meters, 50, 100, and 200 meters. Because I want to show myself that not only I can reach different targets in long distance, but I'm like a little kid, I want a medal in swimming. So I will try my best and try to beat my own record in chronometer speaking. And after that, in March, I will sit down again with a blank piece of paper, and I will design a new challenge, which will be in June in the sea and around 40 kilometers.
Wow.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, well, if not, let's give Jacobo one last round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.